What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of Between the Hash Marks, the fastest growing sports show in West Palm Beach, the only one recorded from my place. I know all of you other shows are extremely jealous. You don't have our kind of swag. I'm Sean McCabe. We got no James today, but it's all right. I'll be getting you by on your car drive to work. You only got 8 more hours left. And then you'll be home, and I'll crack open a cold one with you. Please, like us on Facebook. We are growing every day. You don't want to miss the movement. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We have our videos up on there, too. You can listen to us there. You can listen to us on iTunes through the iPhone podcast app. You can also email the show. bthashmarks@gmail.com is our email. Absolutely loaded show for you here today. We're going to be talking about Aaron Rodgers and his future with the Green Bay Packers. We're going to be talking about LeBron James and his future with the Cleveland Cavaliers. We have my opening rant, and it is a good one. It is a little different than normal, but it is a fantastic one. But first, I want to take a very somber moment to express how devastated I was yesterday when I heard the news about Roy Halladay. He was one of the greatest pitchers I have ever seen when I was growing up watching baseball. Now, I've been watching baseball since I was about 5 years old. I'm currently 23. So almost 20 years of watching baseball, and he is one of the greatest pitchers I have ever actually watched play baseball. He passed away yesterday in a plane crash at the age of 40. And I literally almost crashed into my front entrance neighborhood sign when I heard the news on the radio. I absolutely loved watching him pitch. When he was on the Blue Jays, I hated watching him pitch against the Red Sox. And I absolutely loved watching him pitch against the Yankees. He was unhittable during his prime, during a huge steroid era where home runs were getting hit left and right. Not as many home runs as this past season, but home runs were getting hit left and right every single game. He never complained as a person. He was never in the news for the wrong reasons. He helped the youth. When he retired, he helped the youth play baseball and get ready for baseball, and impacted so many young lives in their mental state and their physical state with being able to play the game of baseball, really affecting a large number of young adults. He was an 8-time All-Star. He was a 2-time Cy Young Award winner. He is one of 6 players ever to win the Cy Young Award in both the American League and the National League. He is one of 23 players to ever play the game to pitch a perfect game. And he pitched a no-hitter in the playoffs. Yesterday was one of the saddest days. It really just devastated the rest of my day. And I just want to take a moment to express, Roy Halladay, you will be missed. You were loved, and you will definitely be a first ballot Hall of Famer. You deserve it more than anybody else. A true class act in all facets of life, not just baseball. Roy Halladay, you will be missed. Coming up next, we have my opening rant.
Your number one source for sports.
You know who I can't stand? Kevin Durant.
He looks like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton had a kid.
Now, who can argue with that?
I hate Boston.
I'm the biggest Miami Heat hater you'll ever meet.
I just don't understand where you're getting your bogus information from.
What the hell are you even talking about?
Well, I'm sorry you're too freaking sensitive to handle the truth.
You think I'm crazy? I'm just getting warmed up.
You're now between the hash marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe.
And welcome back to BTH. Now, I believe this topic is going to piss a lot of people off, but it needs to be said. This is my opening rant. Now, here is going to be the most reasonable approach to the Colin Kaepernick situation that you have ever heard in your entire life. Both sides of the argument are going to agree with me here. I'm going to do the impossible. Colin Kaepernick, as you know, is not in the NFL right now. He was an NFL quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. He took the 49ers to a Super Bowl appearance back in 2012. Or should I say the 2012 season, so it was really in 2013. But since then, his career, his everything has really gone downhill as far as NFL, if you're concerned NFL-wise, and image-wise in many people's minds. Now, I just want to break down a timeline for you, just everything that has happened, to really give you some clarity on the situation, because many people do not fully understand the entire Colin Kaepernick situation. First, August 14th, 2016, Colin Kaepernick begins his protest in a preseason game where he sat down on a bench. This goes completely unnoticed. August 20th, 2016, Colin Kaepernick sits again during a preseason game. This goes completely unnoticed. August 26th, 2016, Colin Kaepernick sits again. This time he gets noticed, and this time he gets a lot of backlash. On August 27th, 2016, Colin Kaepernick addresses the media himself and explains exactly why he is doing the protest that he is doing. Quote, this is what he says: "I am not going to stand up to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color. To me, this is bigger than football, and it would be selfish on my part to look the other way. There are bodies in the street and people getting paid leave and getting away with murder. This is not something I am going to run by anybody. I am not looking for approval. I have to stand up for people that are oppressed. If they take football away, my endorsements from me, I know that I stood up for what is right." Later that day, on August 27th, the team addressed this, the San Francisco 49ers. "The national anthem is and always will be a special part of the pre-game ceremony. It is an opportunity to honor our country and reflect on the great liberties we are afforded as citizens. In respecting such American principles as freedom of religion and freedom of expression, we recognize the right of an individual to choose and participate or not in our celebration of the national anthem." And also Chip Kelly, who was the coach of the 49ers at the time, makes some comments towards Kaepernick as well. Quote, saying, "It is his right as a United States citizen to do what he wants for the national anthem, that is including sitting, and it is not my job to tell him not to do something." Now, that was Chip Kelly, the coach of the 49ers at the time. Now, on August 31st, this is 4 days later, there was an anonymous GM report that at this point he has never seen anybody as hated as Colin Kaepernick that he has ever seen in the history of him being a GM in the National Football League. Now, just the day before, on August 30th, there was an Army Times letter from Nate Boyer. Nate Boyer, for those of you who do not know, was a former Navy SEAL, and he was also a long snapper for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, he wrote a letter expressing how he was not comfortable with Colin Kaepernick making this doing this sitting down for the national anthem. He did not feel right with it, so he decided to meet with Colin Kaepernick in person along with Eric Reid, who was a safety for the San Francisco 49ers at the time. And they met, and this is what they came to. They actually came to an agreement, instead of Colin Kaepernick sitting, that maybe as a compromise, that Colin Kaepernick and others could kneel. And this was decided by both Colin Kaepernick and Nate Boyer, who is the former Navy SEAL. This is what was said following the meeting. We sort of came to a middle ground where we would take a knee alongside, where he would take a knee alongside his teammate. Soldiers take a knee in front of a fallen brother's grave, to show respect. When we're on patrol, and we go into a security halt, we take a knee and we pull security. Later on in the interview that Nate Boyer said that when he met with Kaepernick and Eric Reid, he said, "I think maybe taking a knee would be a little more respectful. It's still a demonstration. You're still saying something, but people take a knee to pray. So for me, it was a common ground at least to start from." Now this is a compromise by a United States Navy SEAL and former football player, along with Colin Kaepernick, to not be sitting during the national anthem. Now I just want to read you Colin Kaepernick's stats for the entire 2016 season. This is after that meeting with Nate Boyer, and he's taking a knee now. Colin Kaepernick, out of 30 ranked quarterbacks for the 2016 regular season, Colin Kaepernick was rated the 17th best quarterback in passer rating with a 90.7. This is ahead of guys like Tyrod Taylor, Phillip Rivers, Carson Palmer, Jameis Winston, Eli Manning, Trevor Siemian, Joe Flacco, Carson Wentz, Blake Bortles, Case Keenum, Cam Newton, Brock Osweiler, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Colin Kaepernick had 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, threw for 2,200 yards with a 59.2 completion percentage. Now look, that's not amazing numbers, but you know what? It's serviceable numbers. Serviceable numbers to be a quarterback in the NFL. Maybe not good enough to be a starting quarterback, but definitely serviceable numbers to be an NFL quarterback. Now, if we go back to the timeline, he finishes the 2016 season. March 1st comes and he opts out of his contract. March 1st, 2017, he opts out. May 24th, the Seattle Seahawks work him out. Now during this time, during March 1st to May 24th, he's getting a lot of backlash. Maybe once a week there's a story about him. The media, the ESPN media is loving him, and a lot of people are just hating him. Just maybe it's because the way the media is skewing it, and maybe it's the way they just don't like, people don't like the way the media is skewing things. But you did not hear this story that I'm about to tell you. May 24th, the Seahawks work out Colin Kaepernick. On June 5th, the Seahawks sign Austin Davis to quarterback. And then later on that day, Pete Carroll says that Colin Kaepernick is a starting quarterback and that the Seahawks don't need him because they already have a starting quarterback in Russell Wilson. Now this is what this story tells me. That Colin Kaepernick was offered some sort of deal to be a backup quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. He obviously would not be the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks because they have Russell Wilson, who is a legitimate quarterback in the NFL. Top 10, you can argue top 5 quarterback in the NFL. They signed Austin Davis to roughly $800,000. You know what that tells me? That tells me the Seattle Seahawks had a budget for about $800,000. And they got so much backlash for not signing Colin Kaepernick because it really looked like they were going to sign him. But you know what? They couldn't afford him. He wanted more money. He wanted to be a starting quarterback. That is something that Seattle Seahawks cannot give him, whether it's being a starting quarterback or whether it's giving him more money. They just simply could not afford to do that. Now, June 7th, Sports Illustrated came out with an article saying that there are 15 backups in the NFL who are currently better than Colin Kaepernick. Now, these quarterbacks include Jimmy Garoppolo, Matt Moore, Colt McCoy, AJ McCarron, Chad Henne, Geno Smith, Drew Stanton, Brock Osweiler, Cody Kessler, Chase Daniel, Derek Anderson, Nick Foles, Ryan Mallett, Matt Barkley, Landry Jones, and Matt Castle. Now, some of these I agree with. Jimmy Garoppolo I can agree with. I can agree with AJ McCarron. I can maybe understand Brock Osweiler if you still think he's got something. Maybe a Landry Jones, possibly. Maybe Geno Smith, possibly. But the fact that they say 15 quarterbacks are better than Colin Kaepernick in the NFL, simply not true. Now, on July 30th, the Ravens owner is interested in Colin Kaepernick. July 30th, Ravens owner interested in Colin Kaepernick. However, Colin Kaepernick's girlfriend at the time tweets out that the Ravens owner and that these football team owners are basically modern day slave owners. How can you expect a team to sign a player when they have somebody in that player's family tweeting out those kinds of things and just bad-mouthing and bashing the people who run the organization? It just cannot go for it. So that's why I give my pass to the Seattle Seahawks and I give my pass to the Baltimore Ravens. And then Colin Kaepernick files a lawsuit against the NFL for collusion of keeping him out. And you know what? He has a case, and if he can prove it, the NFL is screwed. I think it's going to be very tough for him to prove it, though. Now, the most egregious thing, the absolute most egregious thing, there have been quarterbacks signed just about every single week in the NFL since the NFL has started this year. Quarterbacks signed every single week. This past week, Deshaun Watson of the Houston Texans goes down. Now, he is one of these mobile quarterbacks with a decent arm, got great weapons all around with Will Fuller and DeAndre Hopkins, good running back and Lamar Miller, good backup running back, decent offensive line, decent defense when they're healthy. The Houston Texans this past week signed Josh Jackson to the team. Josh Jackson, yes. Many of you are thinking Josh Jackson is a basketball player, a rookie for the Phoenix Suns. No, Josh Jackson is a quarterback who last appeared with the Bengals in 2013, but has not thrown a single pass since 2011. Exactly. Yes. No. Exactly. Now, I'm not all into Colin Kaepernick. I think he's done a lot of stupid things. I think he has a lot of poor political opinions. I'm not talking about his stand against the national anthem. I'm not talking about that. Just overall, his political ideology, I don't think it's fully formed. When you can't have these kinds of stands and then not go vote. You have to go vote. You don't have to vote for the president. Yeah, I know you don't like Hillary Clinton or you don't like Donald Trump, but there are other elections involved and you need to go vote for one of those. Look, is Colin Kaepernick a top 20 quarterback? No, he is not. Is he a top 32 quarterback? Maybe. Very well, maybe he is. Is he a top 64 quarterback in the league? That means either a backup or a starter. There are 64 quarterbacks in the league if you count the backups and the starters. Is he a top 64 quarterback in the NFL? Abso-freaking-lutely. Does he fit certain schemes? Yes, he does, but he does not fit all of them. But if you look at the Houston Texans, they run this scheme with their quarterback, especially with Deshaun Watson, where they run the ball a little bit with their quarterback, they throw the ball a little bit with their quarterback, and Colin Kaepernick has a decent enough arm to get the ball down the field to Will Fuller and DeAndre Hopkins. Now, should Colin Kaepernick be blackballed like this? Absolutely not. taking his position is one of the most American things anyone can do. And look, this was a compromise that he came to with a former Navy SEAL. So you know what? I am sorry that you are offended he is taking a knee. I truly am. But if Navy SEALs are okay with this, former Navy SEALs are okay with this, the ones who actually fought and died for this country, who put their lives on the lines for this country, if they're okay with it, if some of them are okay with it, if any of them are okay with it, why aren't you? But why aren't you just as offended when other players take the knee? Why aren't you blackballing them as well? And why don't you blackball other players that do atrocious things, like Greg Hardy? You let him back into the NFL. What about Michael Vick? You let him back into the NFL. Now, I'm not saying Mike Vick is a bad guy at all. He did a very, very bad thing back in the day. And some people still don't forgive him for that. I am one of the people that I do forgive him for that. He has done all the correct things afterwards. He's admitted he made a mistake, and he's honestly one of the best redemption stories you could ever think of. But becoming offended over Colin Kaepernick taking a knee when somebody like Nate Boyer, a former Navy SEAL, is okay with it is just completely silly. Now, would you be offended if Colin Kaepernick was kneeling for, let's say, cops' lives or military lives, doesn't think that the military benefits are good enough for veterans? You probably wouldn't be offended if he was taking a knee for that during the national anthem. And that tells me everything that I need to know. On the other hand, the NFL teams are allowed to not sign Colin Kaepernick if they do not want to. If they think that he is not a good football player, if they think that he is going to be a detriment to the organization in any way, shape, or form, or hurt the brand, whatever, that is their right to do so. You cannot punish these NFL teams for not wanting to sign somebody. There are situations all the time where teams take a less talented player because he's cheaper, because they like his upside, for whatever reason. And you don't blame them for that. Just this past week, the Miami Dolphins, they got rid of Jay Ajayi for a 4th round pick, and everybody thought that was a horrible move for the Miami Dolphins. But you know what? They made that move because that's what they thought was best for the team. It wasn't because they didn't like Jay Ajayi for this particular reason. They just didn't want him on the team anymore because they didn't like the way he was playing football. But even though he's one of the most talented running backs in the NFL right now. So it doesn't have to do with just talent. There are many other factors that go into getting a player. And the question is, does Colin Kaepernick truly want to be an NFL quarterback? Because it seems like he is interested in being a person who takes a stand, a political activist, if you will. And if he is interested in being that person, then let him be that person. If he wants to be an NFL player, then he should prove it himself that he wants to be an NFL player, and he should express that the thing I want to do most right now in this world is be an NFL player. But if you don't have that desire to be the NFL player, to put all your heart and soul into being an NFL player, then I don't blame NFL teams for not wanting you on their team. There are many things that go into this. It's not black and white. But the thing is, you cannot be getting offended over Colin Kaepernick for taking a knee when doing this civil protest is the most peaceful civil protest that you can imagine. And you know what? He didn't just take a knee. He put his money where his mouth was. He donated the money. He is donating his time. He is doing seminars. He's teaching young people about rights and the rights that they have. You can't get more American than that. But if teams do not want to sign him because they don't think he is fully invested in football, then that is their prerogative. And it doesn't matter what I say, what you say. If you get offended, if he gets offended, if she gets offended, it does not matter. Colin Kaepernick should be an NFL quarterback right now, a backup at the very least. Coming up next, we will be talking about LeBron James and his future with the Cleveland Cavaliers. You're listening to BTH.
You're listening to Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe, brought to you by an unknown sponsor we don't have yet. Now back to the show.
And welcome back to Between the Hash Marks. We just had an amazing opening rant here. We talked about Colin Kaepernick. We're going to dive right into LeBron James and his future with the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. And look, I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are in a lot of trouble. Not necessarily this season, but the following year after this year. Now look, the Cleveland Cavaliers have actually gotten off to a very, very slow start. They started out 4-6. Now, I don't know about you, but not many teams have ever started out 4-6 and have made the NBA Finals. However, I do want to say this. In the games where LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers have faced real Eastern Conference opponents, where LeBron James views them as a real threat, that is against the Washington Wizards, the Boston Celtics, and the Milwaukee Bucks. I'll tell you what. LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, they are 4-0. And I'm going to tell you why I think this is the thing. So, when you are amazing at something, and you are amazing at something for a very, very long time, you get bored. When you keep having accomplishment after accomplishment after accomplishment after accomplishment, you get bored. You do not put in all the same amount of hard work. And that is what LeBron James did during the offseason. He did not put in the same kind of work that he does year in and year out. He kind of came back, had a bad camp, but had a bad offseason. He admitted it himself. So it's going to take them a little bit to come back into the fold of things. They still are without Isaiah Thomas. They don't have Kyrie Irving anymore. And Dwayne Wade is not the same player, and honestly, LeBron James is not getting the help that he thought he would be getting at this point in time. But it doesn't matter, because we're only 10 or 11 games into the season. Look, the Cleveland Cavaliers are still going to win the Eastern Conference this year. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, the Boston Celtics, I'm a big Boston Celtics fan. Yeah, they're 9-2. Doesn't matter. They're winning a lot of regular season games. They're going to be a great regular season team, even better than most of us expected on our NBA or 2 game into the season show. We thought we had them dropping down as the 3rd or 4th or 6th seed, whatever. But they're going to be a good regular season team. LeBron James, he's going to snap out of it when the time comes, when Isaiah comes back, when things start meshing together a little bit better. They will have it together. They will be in the Eastern Conference Finals. They will win the Eastern Conference Finals, and then they will go ahead and lose to the Warriors in the finals of this season. And you know what? That is going to be the kick in the bucket for LeBron James. And LeBron James, after this season, will be leaving the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't care who says what about him staying for the entire rest of the season. Until he stays in Cleveland after this season, I will not believe it. And you want to know where he's going to go? He is going to go to the Los Angeles Lakers, and I'll tell you why. Yes, I know the Los Angeles Lakers aren't the most glorified team right now, but you know what? They have a lot of good young players that are team players, that are good pieces that LeBron wants to go to. They're fun. They're exciting. They're building a new culture there. They are everything that the Cavaliers are not. They're young. The Cavs are old. They're exciting. The Cavaliers are not. The Lakers are building a culture there. The Cavs, they have this culture that just does not seem to be working. And once LeBron leaves, that culture is going to completely dissipate. But don't be thinking that just because the Cavs are off to a slow start right now means that they're completely done. They're not done. Not at all. Not even close. Because when they face real teams that LeBron views as a threat, he comes out, he balls out, he drops MVP numbers, and he looks like he's still the best player in the NBA. However, like I said before, he can only do so much of this with this team and keep losing in the finals. He can only do so much more of that. And I'll tell you what, losing in the Western Conference Finals or in the first round of the Western playoffs or not even making the playoffs is better than losing in the finals. That's how we view LeBron James. We only judge him on the finals that he's lost and won, and he understands that. And if he stays in Cleveland, he's going to keep losing finals. And especially after this year, when the Celtics get Gordon Hayward back and the Wizards are another year better and the Bucks are a lot better, Giannis Antetokounmpo gets another year stronger and Eric Bledsoe is better for the Bucks, that is when LeBron James is going to have trouble in the Eastern Conference. So why not move to a more exciting place, a place where you already have a home now, a place where you already have a business now? Why not move there and finish out the rest of your career there? And if you bring the Lakers to the finals, or if you bring the Lakers a championship, you will do something that Michael Jordan has never done. You will take 3 organizations that were not historically good and you made them all great. And when you left, they were all historically bad. LeBron James will be going to the Los Angeles Lakers after this season. I know I'm not the first person to say this, and I know a lot of people who say this, they get criticized heavily for saying this, but this is what is going to happen. It is what is going to make LeBron James happy. And just remember that you heard this from me. Coming up next, we're talking about one superstar in one sport, LeBron James, to another superstar in another sport with Aaron Rodgers. You're listening to BTH.
You're listening to Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe, brought to you by an unknown sponsor we don't have yet. Now back to the show.
And we're back here on BTH. We've had an absolutely loaded show for you today. We gave our prayers to Doc, Roy Halladay. We had my opening rant. I pissed a bunch of people off with Colin Kaepernick. I talked about why LeBron James is going to be leaving the Cleveland Cavaliers after this season, how they're not completely done this season because they only play hard against the real teams that they feel like are a threat to them. And now for the final segment of the day, we're going to be talking about Aaron Rodgers, another star player who should leave his organization, the Green Bay Packers. Look, the Green Bay Packers, they don't do free agency at all. They build through the draft every single year. They give Aaron Rodgers absolutely no help at all. The players on the team are absolutely bad without him. Look at Jordy Nelson. Look at Devontae Adams. Martellus Bennett hasn't even played lately. That's the one guy that they got in free agency. He's not even playing. This team has no defense at all. They can't even pressure Matthew Stafford when the Detroit Lions have no starting offensive linemen. I don't even understand how that is even possible to not get pressure on a quarterback throughout an entire game when they don't have their entire starting lineup. And look, the Vikings and the Lions look a lot better than the Packers when you're looking at positions 2 through 53 or whatever it is, 2 through 54. Doesn't matter how many players on the team. The only player that matters to the Green Bay Packers is Aaron Rodgers, and without him, they are completely done. So why should Aaron Rodgers stay? They're not doing him any favors at all. And the Vikings look amazing. Their defense looks to be on point. The Lions look good as well. And the Bears have a real shot of beating the Packers this weekend without Aaron Rodgers. And if they don't, it doesn't matter because the Bears are building a foundation where they will be good in about 2 years, for the next maybe 3 years, for the next 10 years to come. They look like they found their quarterback. Their defense is a lot better than people think. Their front seven is actually pretty good. They have an offensive line. They have 2 good running backs, and their wide receivers. They're probably going to draft some wide receivers. They're a team that actually goes and gets free agents when they have to. The Packers are not. They're not doing Aaron Rodgers any favors at all. I don't understand why Aaron Rodgers would stay. Maybe it's because it's his little niche there, but he can go to other teams that will get him the players that he needs, and he can make a lot more money there as well. Green Bay is the frozen tundra. He is a California cool kind of guy. I could definitely see him going to a San Francisco 49ers team later in his career, or maybe a Chargers team, maybe after Phillip Rivers is done playing football. Who knows? But I can tell you right now, if the Green Bay Packers are never going to get him free agents, and they're never going to have a top draft pick, even this year they're not going to have a top draft pick because they won too many games already to have a top draft pick. Their drafting ability isn't what it used to be. They're relying on Clinton Dix, who is, he's a great player. He's a fine player, but you need star players. You need more than one star player in this league. You're not going to do it like the Patriots do it every year. Tom Brady is a stud. I know Aaron Rodgers is that stud too, and he couldn't do it by himself, but there is absolutely no reason for him to stay in town. There's a difference between the Patriots and the Packers. The Patriots actually are bringing in some players for Brady to build around. They brought him Wes Welker. They gave him Randy Moss. They gave him Julian Edelman. They gave him Brandon Cooks. They got a defense for him, depending on whatever year it is. The Packers, they never add any offense. They never add any defense. They are just continuously building through the draft. And you know what? Free agents don't even want to go there in the first place. It is a terrible place for free agents to go. And don't hate me for saying this when every NFL player in the history of NFL players is saying this. You can look at Greg Jennings, and he's like, Green Bay is a little weird for somebody like me to be playing. Free agent after free agent is saying this, and that's why they leave instead of signing that second contract or signing that third contract there. Aaron Rodgers needs to go. He will be happier there. He will win Super Bowls there. If he stays, he won't regret it. But it's just the Green Bay Packers are not doing him any favors at all. So why would he do them any favors? Please like us on Facebook. Listen to us on iTunes. You can listen to us on the iPhone podcast app. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can email the show. That's at bthashmarks@gmail.com. Coming up next week, we have your favorite stuff. We're giving you picks against the spread. I did go 2-3, got screwed on 2 picks, and I'll explain to you next week why certain games, when you get them wrong, why you can't blame yourself. We will also be doing our DraftKings lineups for you. I actually had an amazing week in DraftKings. We will also be doing our fantasy season waiver wire pickups. James will finally be back with us. You're listening to Between the Hash Marks.